Good morning, everybody. I'm Andrew Smith. Sometimes I go by Sunfrog. I'm also a teacher on the radio, and I'm trying to start a new website that I might put this up on called "The World Is a Mixtape." It's brand new out of the gate, and I'm here with my longtime collaborator, and it is through U2 that we met kind of each other, and through a few other things in common. A theologian and now a rock critic for popmatters.com. Rick Quinn is with me this morning. And I must say that Rick wrote a brilliant article about the 30th anniversary of the U2 album Achtung Baby, which is 30 years old today. Today is its birthday. And this was reading Rick's article is what inspired me to ask him to come on the live stream today. So we're live streaming on our personal channels. I'm also live streaming on the interference.com Facebook page. I was one time actively editing a webzine, U2 webzine for Interference over there. That page has gone pretty quiet here in the off season of the U2 career. Rick's collaborated with me over there as well. I think we did something along these lines in 2017 when the last album was released. Was that 2017 when Songs of Experience came out? Around this time, I think we did some kind of celebratory pod stream kind of thing then. So welcome back to our little Zoomiverses here on this rainy Thursday morning in Tennessee. We're coming at you from Central Tennessee. We're both Nashville adjacent music fans. And so, Rick, why don't we both start first? And this is where I said we would go and talk about the fact that even though we were passionate U2 fans in our late teens and early 20s around War, Unforgettable Fire, and Joshua Tree, that in our early 20s, in the early 90s, we weren't all in for Zoo TV. We weren't all in for Zooropa. We weren't all in for Achtung Baby. That this thing kind of came and went in our lives without us, both avowed hardcore U2 fans, without really, it didn't really make a dent in my universe. And I have my own story, Zoo TV story I want to tell you after you go. But why don't you rehearse us through where you were in your life in the early 90s and why Achtung Baby in November of 91 didn't really make that much of an impact at first on you.
Yeah, thanks. Let's see. So 30 years ago, I was 25. And the fall of 91, I think I was almost in my next to last semester at Vanderbilt Divinity School. And so within a few months after this album dropped, our firstborn we would find out that our firstborn was on his way. So there was a lot going on then. I think for me, and you and I have talked about this before, I was so struck the chords, especially of War and its sort of raw, hard on the sleeve, change the world. We've got to do something. The passion of it. That was the U2 that I fell in love with, and it spoke to me as somebody in their early to mid 20s, and I think I was enamored of that. The deal was sealed when I got to see them on the Joshua Tree tour in I think it was November of '87, I believe. I'm not sure, in Murfreesboro. So, to be quite honest with you, I think that it was just the image that I had in my mind of this is who this band is. This is who I connect with, and the sounds and the sights of Achtung Baby were so dissonant at first. I just kind of resisted it, as if I, as a fan, was saying, "Oh no, you're not going to change from what my image was of you." So that had to do a lot with my own resistance, and I didn't come around to this album until much later. How about you?
So I've been trying to remember, when did I actually really start listening to this? Because now when I listen to it, and I'm this way with all U2 albums, they become part of my bloodstream. They become part of my chemistry. I believe there is a part of me as much as you're a part of me, as much as this desk and, all of the books, that I love, the great writers. And, I mean, they have that kind of almost biblical import in my life. And I don't rank the albums. I love reading it. When people put out, we're going to rank all the U2 albums. And of course, this week, everybody's like, Joshua Tree, Achtung Baby, or Achtung Baby, Joshua Tree. They always are the top two. Each of these albums serves me at a different way at a different time. I love in retrospect, I love the Black Sheep albums. So I love October, I love Rattle and Hum, and I love Pop. I love the Black Sheep albums, and I could make a case why they're the top of the, of the canon if I wanted to. But for me personally, I was so immersed in the 80s. And so I remember discovering them with Under a Blood Red Sky, falling in love with that video, and then waiting. I think Unforgettable Fire was the first album I waited for, to be released. And, the way we are now, you and I are on Fridays. I mean, remember when Reunions came out early in the pandemic and we were all cooped up in our houses, and then Jason Isbell and the 400 Unit dropped Reunions in our lives. And we were just like, the release week of Reunions was so exuberant. And that was the first album I got like that about, was Unforgettable Fire. And then I was sleeping on the ground on the front door of a record store in Royal Oak, Michigan, so I could get tickets to see them at the Fox Theater, which is like a 4,000. It's like the Ryman. It would be like seeing U2 at the Ryman on the first leg of Unforgettable Fire in fall of '84, and then meeting Bono backstage after the show. Like I did all the U2 bucket list things. My first time out, and so then how do you top that? Well, I followed them on Joshua Tree for 3 weeks, in the spring of '87. And I remember after that, I kind of fell out of love with them. And I fell out of love with them almost immediately. I think because on 80, I did get the idea that they'd become too big for their britches on Joshua Tree, and it happened to them too quickly. And I do agree that fame has a way of messing with our art. And so I had started to fall out of love with them almost immediately. But so I don't think I was a big Rattle and Hum fan then. But when I go back and look at Rattle and Hum today, I'm a huge, huge Rattle and Hum fan. So I don't even remember Achtung Baby coming out. I must have known about it, and I must have listened to it. And this is before YouTube and before Spotify. So I must have been given a cassette or bought a cassette. I don't even know if I had a CD player at that time. I think cassettes were the main way I was listening to music. I do remember I bought Joshua Tree for the first time on a store-bought cassette, and I learned to love Joshua Tree on a Sony Walkman cassette player. I'm positive that that's how my relationship with Joshua Tree began. So I think I knew the songs. But Zoo TV, one of its early shows was at the Palace of Auburn Hills in suburban Detroit. And my brother, who had watched me passionately through this fandom, couldn't believe that I wasn't, ready for, Zoo TV. And I wasn't ready for what's the line in the song? I mean, I can't think of the lyric. I should look it up. Are you ready for what does he say? The gridlock? What does he say?
Gridlock. Mm-hmm.
Right. So I wasn't ready for the gridlock. I wasn't ready for did you remember the remote that he had, that giant remote that he would play the TV with? So I wasn't ready for any of it. And he drags me to this thing. And I loved it when they played the songs that I knew. I took my then partner at the time, who had never been a War, Unforgettable Fire, Joshua Tree, U2 groupie, and they didn't really like it. She didn't like it. And I went because my brother bought me a ticket and insisted that I needed continuity in my U2 fandom. And that's the only, so that means I think Pop is the only tour that I really ever missed, because by All That You Can't Leave Behind and Elevation, I was back on the bus. But I was definitely not on the bus. And I think I didn't understand the layers of irony and critique. I didn't understand that he wasn't the Fly. Like, I thought he had become the Fly. like I didn't, and I don't know. I don't think he'd even rolled McFisto out yet. I think McFisto came later in the tour, so I don't think he'd even rolled McFisto out yet. And when I saw them, I think it was like February, maybe of '92, March of '92. It was very, very early. The only thing that was, I think, iconic of that show is he actually got the pizza delivery. He used his cell phone or whatever that thing was, and he ordered pizza at the Palace, and whatever, you know, Detroit's very much known. Little Caesars and Domino's are both based out of Detroit, and I don't know if he ordered from one of them, but Little Caesars or Domino's or some other pizza, it might have been a local, maybe he supported a mom and pop pizzeria, I don't remember, but somebody shows up at the Palace of Auburn Hills with pizzas that Bono had ordered over the phone, I guess, over the TV, whatever that thing was that he made, that toy. I don't know. Like, so in retrospect, I think he was doing this kind of postmodern media critique that was really quite avant-garde and quite, and it was a form of self-mockery even, but I didn't get any of it. I had no clue. I didn't understand what it was. I was not nuanced in it at all. I didn't see the layers of it. But they're U2 songs. And so eventually I came around. But Rick, why don't you rehearse for us? We talked about this a little bit earlier this morning, but it's definitely in your article. Why don't you rehearse for us in the article the whole kind of backlash against U2? Because you even talk about the contemporary backlash against U2, that people don't like them because they forced an album into your iPhone. So
Right.
you open your article for Pop Matters with the story of the iPhone, but you talk about the relationship between Achtung Baby and Joshua Tree, and you talk about the relationship with electronic music and with punk and with the U2 produced documentary. Was it from the Sky Down? Is that what it was called?
Yes.
It came out in 2011 on the 20th anniversary. So why don't you just kind of rehearse us through a little bit of kind of the arc of the Achtung Baby phenomenon as it's sort of situated in the U2 mythology, and I'll give you my little gentle pushback against what I think I'm just not sure I believe them, even though that they're saying,
Sure.
even though they said it. But why don't you walk us through the whole chopping down the Joshua Tree story?
Sure. I'm glad you said I'm not so sure you believe them, because I want to circle back to that. That may play into their whole thing about irony and persona in all of that. So I think you're right. I started off the article almost in a conversation that you and I have had in many different ways about how U2 now seems to be an easy punching bag for music criticism. I refer to the line in Nick Hornby's High Fidelity, where his main character talks about U2 being one of the 5 bands that will need to be shot come the music revolution. And you know, anybody
who were the other 4? Do you know who the other 4 were?
Okay, they're Simple Minds, because I think that's where it comes from. One of his co-workers is begins dating, and the young lady that he's dating is a fan of Simple Minds, and so this is going on in Rob's head about, I can't even believe that this is happening. You know, I believe Michael Bolton is another one in the 5. And the other 2 are escaping me at this point. But the one of the things that's intrigued me about the band, and you and I have talked about this over the years, is this continual striving to to hit it out of the park again, to swing for the fences, and thinking about it in terms of this particular story. I talk about the sort of the image that had been, and you and I have already alluded to this, that had been concocted or not concocted, that had been constructed in the 80s. U2 is this sort of righteous vanguard of the voice of the megaphone for justice, and this sort of iconic way they have been presented, even on the cover of Joshua Tree, in Rattle and Hum, etc. And talk a little bit about the way in which rock stars, rock music is about myth making, and there had been a myth that had been constructed around them, and according to Bono and some of the others in the documentary From the Sky Down, they had decided, based on what they perceived as backlash for the Rattle and Hum album, the movie, to, as they said, chop the Joshua Tree down and start all over again. And even that statement is an act of myth making. You know, how much truth is in that. But this is a story that was put out. So just to briefly wrap up, I tried to explore that metaphor of what does it mean to present yourself in a completely different way, to take on a persona, moving from this hard on the sleeve righteousness to more of a cynical irony. And what did it reveal, and how was it a risk? How did it pay off? How did it flop? And I began to think about my own journey. You know, what was it about me that wants people I don't really know outside of their art to stay in a certain place rather than continue to move or evolve? And does it say something? Is it more about my assessment of their art, or is it more about my own insecurity with change and moving myself, that I project that out onto others? So that's kind of where I ended up the whole thing, and recognizing that this move from Joshua Tree to Achtung Baby was bold and risky and paid off. Like you said, for fans, even for those who aren't diehard fans but are critics of music, these are the two albums, right? That are weighed. Both of them are generally seen as monumental albums, not only for the band but in rock music. And so that, to me, that boldness, that risk, that moving outside, that I see as something to be celebrated. So that's kind of it in a nutshell.
One of the things that I find interesting in terms of my mild pushback against this theory is that I think that Bono's lyrical commitments are consistent. So I think a song like Acrobat, or a song like One, or even Who's Gonna Ride Your Wild Horses, I think he takes a different angle on the ultimate and on the humanity of everything, or
Yes.
The end of the world. But I don't think his theological commitments, and I don't think his emotional commitments have changed really from Boy to October to War. I think the canon there's a thread through the canon. So I think there's a little bit of, window dressing here, and it's fine. But I do kind of think Bono is starring in his own version of Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story, the Judd Apatow produced film starring John C. Reilly as this knockoff of Johnny Cash. See, I just think I think he undermines his own mojo around sort of like we had become, because in the From the Sky Down documentary, which I just watched again on Monday, he basically says we had become the enemy. We were from punk rock. We weren't really, Jimi Hendrix and Bob Dylan, but of course he's as inspired as much by John Lennon as by Johnny Rotten. He's always been both punk rock and he says he's not a hippie, but he's definitely been of the 60s, has been informative in his journey. So I just think it's just a lot of BS. But the one thing I don't like about From the Sky Down, that I think that where it really snapped for me, is where I think he actually changes the facts of his own story a little bit. And here's my whole thesis here. So he refers to the Point Depot New Year's Eve run in Dublin. So they did a series of shows at the end of 1989 at the Point Depot, and they basically said, this is the end of the 80s. It ends here. So first of all, I used to listen to those bootlegs a lot. They're some of the best YouTube bootlegs that were ever released. And the energy is unbridled. Hearing those Rattle and Hum tracks like, God Part 2 and there's this Edge singing Van Diemen's Land, Desire, but seeing the new All I Want Is You, the new songs from Rattle and Hum being in the set list as like the new album, or even if it was like an EP embedded inside of a live, movie album, whatever you want to call, soundtrack album, whatever you want to call Rattle and Hum. So the energy is unbridled. It's off the chain. But they didn't stop the Lovetown tour until a couple weeks later. So they did some shows in January of 90 during the season of Epiphany, if you will, that was still, so it didn't even stop at Lovetown. And I watched that section in the movie and I'm like, wait a second, they're making it like there's just this cutoff day, and then they go into hiding, before they produce Achtung Baby. So I went and watched this bootleg from Holland, I believe it was, in or Netherlands or somewhere like that, in early January of 90. And it's just, the energy is off the charts. U2 is in full form. And there's this hilarious scene during People Get Ready where he tries to get the guitar player to come up on stage and play the guitar during People Get Ready. And he can't find a guitar player. So he brings on like 5 people on stage before finally somebody comes on stage who actually knows how to play the guitar. It's on YouTube. It's an incredible, I think it's Rotterdam, January 5th, 1990, Lovetown. And so this idea that the Joshua Tree Rattle and Hum period is this has become this suffocating, because what he says basically in the documentary is that we basically have become, Mennonite, that we'd become Mennonite, pilgrims, that they're these kind of, these Luddite, people living, on a compound, and not drinking, the expensive bottles of wine that I know that Bono was drinking around that time. And so, so I think Achtung Baby, Zooropa, Pop as a trilogy is not as cynical or ironic as the myth presumes it to be. And I don't think Joshua Tree, Rattle and Hum, war through, Rattle and Hum is as unflatteringly strident. I think at the end of the day, that's come on, Rick, we're a little strident, aren't we? Do you have a white flag on a flagpole outside your house?
Look, I love that Bono, and that is Bono. And I think in my article I pointed out that it is much is and is not Bono as the Fly is and is not Bono. And I think you're absolutely right. We're in agreement on the ambiguity and the complexity was already there. Whether it's lines in war, like I can't change the world, but I can change the world in myself, or the for heaven's sakes, I knew people, and you may have known contemporaries like this are known them in retrospect. I knew people who got off the U2 train. Disclosure, stuff that that others listening in might not know. I grew up in a conservative evangelical background. October and war excited some listeners of Christian music, but then abandoned them when the Joshua Tree came, because that there was where's the certainty? Where's the what do you mean you still haven't found what you're looking for? So yeah, I think you're absolutely right on that. And to me, it was just that whole owning of persona that made me think. And as you were talking, I was thinking about it, and I was interested in your thoughts on it too. I think that in their visual show in the last tour, was it Songs of Experience? I think they allude to that and allude to the they're almost alluding to the fact that what they were parodying with The Fly and in Achtung Baby, they became those bacchanal rock stars at that point, and they had to sort of pull back. So yeah, I think you're right. I think it is a postmodern move, but it's one that, at least for me, and I could be totally wrong, helps me understand that at some level I'm always practicing some form of persona. My goal is for that persona and what I value to align. But what I get out of this album, and certainly I found it pretty stark in pop, is that sometimes we get fooled, or I get fooled into forgetting that I still haven't found what I'm looking for, that I still need to be moving on. So I don't know, that was sort of
it's kind of funny because both you and I have a lot of strength and breadth of who we are, but also probably a lot of PTSD from the church, right? So we're both men of the church. We've both dabbled in ministry, and our childhood embrace of that 80s U2 was wrapped up in our theological and our social justice commitments. I mean, I was interested in all the things. I was already interested in Martin Luther King Jr. before Bono. I hear these people saying, I never would have known about African poverty if Bono hadn't told me about African poverty. I've had people say that sincerely, without, and that's fine. I'm glad that Bono elevated your consciousness that there's humans that live there that are poor, but I never would have known about, AIDS, if I, that people who weren't gay got AIDS until Bono told me, and so I feel like I'm being kind of a jerk here in saying that, but I was already interested in Martin Luther King Jr. I was already interested in anti-nuke activism when they started talking about nuclear weapons. I was already interested in, I'd already known about what was going on in Central America when I heard Bullet the Blue Sky. And I was also a devout Christian. And so when all this stuff was happening all at the same time, Boy in October are amazing. But I start with War is for me the album that I'm, it's becoming immersed where, from then on, right? Because all the other ones, those are like prequels to my consciousness of them. So,
right.
So War, Unforgettable Fire, Joshua Tree, Rattle and Hum, everything is in sync for me with them. And then I think I have this fall from grace where I realize that Bono's a human being. It's and that he's just, not perfect, right? And my beef with the Joshua Tree tour, because I was kind of on it, was just how the fan base changed. I felt like the fan base changed. I feel like they had been an underground band before that, and now they were like a frat boy band. And the other the other fans at the shows didn't understand. They didn't know about the Contras, and they didn't understand El Sal. You know, like I became the true fan, and everybody else is a poser. And then I fall completely, you know, out of love with them. But I feel so stupid that, because I can disagree with Bono, but he's a brilliant choreographer of his own mythology, as we've been saying.
Yes.
So there's just so many genius moves on this album that it literally took me, I would say it probably wasn't till around How to Dismantle an Atomic Bomb, because I went on Vertigo tour like a bunch of times, and they were playing a lot of songs from Achtung Baby. They had a whole section in the encore that was like the Achtung Baby section of the encore on those How to Dismantle an Atomic Bomb shows were so good. Vertigo tour was just so good. So anyway, I think that so I think it's probably 2005. I was trying to remember when I really fell in love with Achtung Baby. I probably fell in love with Achtung Baby around 2004, around 2005.
Yeah. It may have been around that time, maybe a little sooner. I tell a story at the end of my article about. I remember because it was the year of the Bush Gore election. I worked away from home in Dallas, Texas for an academic year. I was teaching at Southern Methodist University at the seminary there, and so I was away from home for extended periods of time, away from my CD collection, etc. But I had one of the cars that had a CD player, and I ran across Pop in a discount store and just played it nonstop because it was my only access to U2. This is, there's no Spotify, there's no Napster, there's no, unless you have your disc with you. And so that opened up the door for me to begin to think about, to revisit Achtung Baby in a way that I had just resisted, just because of the sheer harshness of the difference. And it was all about me and what I thought, where I wanted to encase the band. So yeah, I think the irony and mixed with this sort of straight shooting look at despair and doubt and the use of lament in their songs brought me back to Achtung Baby, and in appreciating that helped me reevaluate the albums that came before it in a new way, to see those nuances there, to see lament, to see sort of righteous indignation in both the earlier and the later albums.
Do you remember that when they did the press conference to announce the Pop Mart tour, they did it inside a Kmart? Did you remember that?
Vaguely, yes.
So let's talk about Pop in relation, because I think Pop helps get me back to Zooropa and back to, and I'm pretty sure, I think that I probably owned both Zooropa and Achtung Baby, and I probably played them. I just didn't. I just wasn't a devotee the way I am again, right? But I definitely played them, and they were definitely in my universe. And so they were in the water I was swimming in. But I think my primary musical preoccupations in the 90s were folk music and rock music, and I was getting into a little bit of I was really getting into Michael Franti. Like, I was into Michael Franti before everybody else was into Michael Franti. They did open for U2, by the way, as the Disposable Heroes of Hypocrisy, and the song "Television Drug of a Nation" was the intro song that they played on Zoo TV. They played a Michael Franti song as their walkout song on Zoo TV. Just a little shout out there for Michael Franti. And I actually prefer Michael Franti up to about 2004. The later years, Michael Franti, I'm not as into as his earlier work. But I mainly was listening to a lot of folk music, a lot of punk music, and a little bit of stuff like, Michael Franti, Arrested Development, the album with the Tennessee song on it that came out in the 90s. So I think Pop, I think I was really glad that Pop was a flop. I think I was really relieved to learn that Bono was walking around the French Quarter giving away tickets to their song at the Superdome because they had like 20,000 unsold tickets to the song at to the show at the Superdome,
Wow.
and he wanted people, to attend the Superdome show. I think I think I started to get it, that it was a joke. When he comes out in like the superhero outfit, and I was like, oh, he's just messing with us. I think I realized then that whole trilogy, if you'll call it that 90s trilogy, is really, it is Walk Hard, the Bono story. It is him, starring in his own movie about his own mythology.
Yeah.
And I just don't see it. He tried. This is my objection to From the Sky Down. I think he tried to make the transition from Joshua Tree to be From the Sky Down be like when Dorothy gets out of the house in Oz and everything goes from black and white to color. Like, maybe in the biopic, it'll be black and white up until Achtung Baby, and then it'll all be in color. I mean, I'm not buying it. It's all the same. It's all the same band, and it's all good, and it's all pretentious and pompous in the way that only they can be. It's right. Achtung Baby is no less full of itself than Joshua Tree was. If the problem with Joshua Tree is that we took ourselves too seriously, you're taking yourself no less seriously. You're being very, very serious about how you're not taking yourself seriously, which makes it even more serious. So
no, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think I wonder how much of the, in From the Sky Down, Bono is talking about some of the blowback that they were getting from the Rattle and Hum movie / LP. And so, I think you're right. I think it's an open question as to how much of that are they really internalizing, or just using it as a spark to move on to something different. So yeah, I think those are valid questions. I think you're right too that and you're gonna have to help me out with this reference. Is it in off the latest album where he talks about there's some line, I know there's one about Napoleon and high heels, but there's also one about being careful of little men with big dreams, or
Stand Up to Rock Stars, perfect example.
Right.
Stand Up to Rock Stars is on No Line on the Horizon, and that is exactly what that's kind of like what he's doing. He has a love-hate relationship with himself. It's kind of like in the version of Bullet the Blue Sky that he did on the Songs of Innocence tour, where he's yelling at the younger version of him is yelling at the older version of him, saying, why are you going to Davos to meet with the G8? And I love younger Bono yelling at older Bono, telling him that he's a sellout. I love that about younger Bono doing that, Yeah. And I mean, he's look, there's only one him. Thank God there's only one of him. And he's stuck with him, but props to Larry and Edge and Adam for putting up with him for all these years, Right. I mean, and now he can go and do these. I mean, if he thinks, Joshua Tree was a bad look, what about this cartoon movie malarkey that he just came out with? I mean, like, what the heck is that? That you're a lion in a lion, like out of C.S. Lewis in a cartoon movie. I mean, give me now you're Aslan in a kid's movie. I mean, what the heck?
No, I know. So I would be hard pressed to believe that they thought the Joshua Tree was a bad thing that they needed to.
It's an incredible record,
right? To move away from. It's almost like they were you've seen this in pop culture. We see it all the time. The pop culture machine takes someone and brings them up to the top, and then they get a moment there, and then the next move of the machine is what? We got to tear them down, right? Now you're at the top. Oh, we've got to so that make room for something else.
I read this article the other day, like yesterday, that John Mayer fans were giving. I'm sorry, the Taylor Swift fans were giving John Mayer death threats because of the new Taylor Swift album. So, and I know that you're Taylor adjacent and Taylor, sympathetic, and I don't really know the whole story, but I listened to that one song. I didn't listen to the whole album. I listened to that one song, that 10-minute song, and yeah. I thought what a triumph that is, yeah. And I watched her interview on a couple of the the late nights. I thought she did so incredible, and I was okay when they were all picking on Jake Gyllenhaal. But then I'm like, well, leave my man John Mayer alone because he's in Dead and Company, and I'm like, but then I read the article, and this man is so insecure that he chooses to engage with a fan, and then screenshot the picture, I mean, rock stars are really insecure. That's what Bono talks about his insecurities, right?
Yes.
A lot.
Yes.
And I'm grateful that he's honest about that. John Mayer is obviously radically insecure. There's absolutely no reason why he really does care what Taylor Swift thinks about him. And no, but and I don't think it's appropriate that Taylor Swift fans are sending anonymous hate mail to John Mayer either. I'm like, the whole thing kind of creeps me out. But I think that's the problem. And I think because they've been so dismissed on such a large scale, in the ways that you describe in your article, that it almost kind of makes it okay. Like it's like, and I'm not like excusing if they do something that's untoward, like the whole thing with the Irish taxes. I followed that thing back and forth. I'm like, not sure how I feel about that. I've listened to their rebuttal. I've listened to the criticisms, of them not paying their fair share of taxes. I mean, they are part of the 1%.
Right. Absolutely.
They are right up there with Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates and who's my other. Elon Musk, all these guys, they're part of the 1%. And just because they're rock stars doesn't mean that they, are excused from social responsibility as members of the 1%. So I don't know. I think my long-winded responses to your comment that I think celebrities they live in a different world. Sure. I am so happy for what's the name of the band? Inhaler, Eli's band, and I'm so happy for the acting career of Eve. My wife and I have watched her last series that she was in, and now I can't remember what it was called. I think it just came out this year, but she's an unbelievable actor. But of course, they're royalty, and their careers have catapulted out of nothing because they're royalty. So when Eve goes in an interview and says, they made me go to public school and I had a normal childhood like everybody else, I'm like, no, you didn't. Don't give me that. That's just not fair. That's not a normal childhood. I mean, and I think she's a phenomenal actor. I mean, I think she's, and I'll watch all of her shows, and I think Inhaler's a great band. I'll listen to Inhaler, but I had a totally normal childhood. They made sure we had no special privileges just because they were their kids. I'm like, don't give me that.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. And the life of a pop star, a rock star has to be completely different from, while at the same time being the same, right? They experience elation and heartbreak and insecurity and all these things. And I think it becomes, when you were talking about sort of toxic fandom, when you can't see this disconnection between, there's a connection between you and this thing, this band, this person, this person's art that speaks to you in a way. And maybe that was a little bit of what I was trying to get at in my own little story in the article. I had this connection, and the connection, I let it grow into you can't be anything other than this. And so I resisted the change.
You know, it's so funny when we were talking about the 80s Bono, and one of the phrases that you used was the heart on his sleeve. In Like a Song, he says, "Revolution once again. No, I won't wear it on my sleeve."
Yes.
And you know, too old to be told exactly who you are. We love to wear a badge, a uniform. We love to fly a flag, but I won't let others live in hell as we divide against each other and we fight amongst ourselves.
Yes. Right.
I mean, he's cognizant of it, and
yes, he is.
You know, and that's that song that you mentioned on No Line on the Horizon, Stand Up to Rock Stars. I mean, he's aware of his own BS. That's why I don't feel bad calling him out on his own BS, you know, because, you know, I just think the genius of it is that it's really him. I don't think, you know, through all of the layers of outfits, you know, through all the through the filter, through Anton Corbin's filter, it's really freaking him, you know. But I mean, I honestly, you know, if I have to decide, I'm going to choose the Mennonite pilgrims, you know, stranded in the desert, you know, needing to pee having to take a leak on a Joshua tree because there's no porta potties around, you know, like over those pants. How could you wear those fly pants? Those things look so uncomfortable. So I like him in denim. I like him in denim on the Joshua tree better than I like him in those plastic pants. Fly, or the gold lame Elvis suit for Mr. McFeasto.
Right.
Outside of the shine of the act, he doesn't look comfortable.
Right.
You know, Bobby Weir, and I think somehow Bobby Weir and Bono are connected. I don't know why, but Bobby Weir, the elder, because of Jerry's passing and because Phil Lesh went off and did his own thing, Bobby Weir is kind of like the impresario of the dead now. He comes out in like house clothes. Like he doesn't have an outfit for he wears the same thing to play to 50,000 people as he wears, you know, when no one is home and it's COVID time, you know, like he wears a t-shirt and like some gym shorts, you know. So so I think Bono will never wear a t-shirt and gym shorts, but I think it doesn't matter, you know, you know, whether he's wearing gold or black. He'll probably be wearing black. Actually, you know what? You know, I take that back. I think since 2001, he has worn the same outfit pretty much. Black pants, black shirt. He's pretty much gone back to that. And that's, you know, funeral. They've been wearing funeral attire for the last like 6 tours, actually.
That's a good point.
Oh my goodness. You know what? We've given up all of our time to talking about the myth. Now let's talk about the songs. Let's do a quick. Let's just take it one. Let's get through the track list, not in order. Let's do a round robin phase and just give shout outs to the what is it, 11 songs or whatever, and why we love them. You go first. Pick a song and just give it some love, and then I'll take a turn.
Okay. Well, I'll start with one. I think, especially seeing that live, it's just it is a remarkable a stadium arena hymn. It brings people together, but as we've talked about, it's got this edge to it. There's this recognition that we're broken, but we're interconnected. And we're called to do something about that. It's just a powerful song. One of my favorites.
So I'm going to start with Who's Gonna Ride Your Wild Horses. And I don't know why, but there's just something about that song that whenever I hear it, I get really emotional for some reason. I think there's something about that song that just gets under my skin. And I like that it's not perceived as one of the singles or one of the hits. It doesn't get played live very often. I think they've dusted it off occasionally in this century, but probably only a handful of times. You why do I say that? I think it is that the one where he's asking you to lie to me? Please lie to me. I think that's it. Who is going to ride your wild horses? You're dangerous because you're honest. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, I can't find the line. Hallelujah, heaven's white rose. Isn't that the one where he says, would you lie to me if I asked you to? Yes. Yes. Well, you lied to me because I asked you to. Baby, can we still be friends? I just love that. Sometimes a lie is really honest. Yeah. I mean, it's just Wild Horses is just gets me every time. Mm-hmm. Okay, your turn.
I'll mention Z Station. I think I've come to appreciate it more than I used to. And for an opener, it is a statement. It throws the gauntlet down. It challenges the conventions. There's something new happening here, and I love that. Like I said, that line about when Bono says I'm ready to let go of the steering wheel, and it's just sort of a statement that they're just letting it all hang out, and I think it's just a great opener.
And I agree with everything that's been said about how when you first put it in the tape deck or you first put it in the CD player and you turned it up to 11 and it just it really knocks you on your tush. I really mm-hmm. agree with that. I'm a sucker for Mysterious Ways, and mm-hmm. I don't know if it was culturally appropriate for them to bring a belly dancer on tour. I remember when the belly dancer came out, thinking do you need the belly dance? I mean, do we really need the belly dancer? Right. But I love the feminine, the divine mm-hmm. feminine. I love the you got to learn how to kneel on your knees, boy. I mean, the erotic, and that is the one place where because he's so religious, and mm-hmm. I don't get that your evangelical friends left the band for Joshua Tree, but I could see evangelicals being really offended by this song, which makes me love it. Makes me love it even more. Mysterious Ways and it's a dance. It's just such a good dance song. I love it. I mean, Bono. I'm sorry. Adam really gives it all on Mysterious Ways. It's a great mm-hmm. song.
Yeah. I love Acrobat and the both the tension within oneself. It also could be a reference to what is it? St. Paul about. That which I want to do, I don't do. Talk like this and act like that, and the way he expresses his longing and disconnection from what he needs. I would gladly take the bread and the wine if there was a church I could receive in. I just think it's a beautiful song, and it's the lyrics are just brilliant about the ambiguity and the complexities that we find ourselves in.
I really like Ultraviolet, and I didn't really like it until it became part of the staple of the Encore on 360 tour. And yes. He had that, I don't know what that thing was, that glowing microphone that comes down and then he swings around with it. I don't know, yes. But I really, really, really care for Ultraviolet a lot.
Yeah. It's a beautiful song. Beautiful song. I think Love Is Blindness is an interesting closer to this album. It is it's a haunting, a beautiful song. It's again they're playing with the imagery of light and dark. If you see it in conversation with Ultraviolet, Light My Way, it's the sense of the fragility of relationships. Anyway, it's very interesting, and I think part of the reason I love it too is I love Jack White's cover of it for the Great Gatsby soundtrack. I think he finds the hard edge in it and sort of emphasizes it. So it's a great song.
And I think there's existential longing here that without resolution, and I think that's, in a way, if you're in the mood for this, you could listen to this 90s trilogy as a theological counterpoint to it. So I don't buy the lack of sincerity, irony piece. I don't really like all of the we've drummed that out to the I've kind of beat that horse into the ground. I apologize. But I think on this lyrically on this record, now that we're drilling down a little bit more deeply into the songs, I think I can really see how they're exploring material that is ambiguous and problematic. Because I think the idea, of I was blind, but now I see, he's kind of saying, actually, I see because now I'm blind in this song. I think he's really inverting, a truism. I think he is saying A is true, but B is also true. And I do appreciate the paradoxical and the ambiguous. So, okay, I guess it's my turn. I'm going to go with, and I love that you threw Acrobat in there. Of course, I'm going to go with The Fly, like a fly on the wall. It's no secret. I do really like the, is it Edge that sings background? I've got my friend Bran in the comments now. He probably remembers that. I think it is Edge sings back. So I like the kind of the dueling vocals. I definitely do. Once I kind of figured out what he was doing with The Fly, I did come to I still don't like the pants, but I appreciate what he's doing with The Fly as kind of a character. And I do like The Fly glasses a lot. So yeah, I think The Fly is, and that's kind of like, was that the single after one? What was the first single? Was The Fly the first single?
That's a good question. It may have been. I'm not sure.
I think it was one of the ones that was, also not just playing on my CD player, but that we're seeing it in the, in the general universe. We're almost to the end here, Rick. We're actually we've been on the air for 57 minutes, so let's power through these last couple songs here.
Okay, quickly. So Cruel is a, it is. It's a bitter song about heartbreak and betrayal. There are lots of great lines. You pressed your lips against hers to stop the lying. It's one of those songs that speaks to something that we've all experienced, or maybe have been the offending party. I just think it's a really good song.
I like Even Better Than the Real Thing for some of the same reasons that I like Mysterious Ways for its celebration of the feminine, but also just in terms of it's not really in the lyrics so much. This is in the title and its whole situation in the show, in the Zoo TV show. I did go to grad school. I'm sorry, not grad school. I went back to school as an undergrad in literature and got introduced to I started learning about Guy Debord and Jean Baudrillard and the Society of the Spectacle and the Simulacrum. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think U2 and their whole media operation were at least acquainted with the Situationists and the Simulacrum idea, maybe because of the Sex Pistols and Malcolm McLaren, and that's the whole stuff that Greil Marcus talks about in his book Lipstick Traces, is the kind of the way performativity is kind of fake, and this idea of the spectacle. So I do think that Guy Debord and Jean Baudrillard and the whole Simulacrum Society of the Spectacle idea does factor into the whole Zoo TV machine and in a really interesting way. And so I do like this idea that this is the fake U2, that's kind of the genuine U2 is the fake U2. And I do here, I guess, now that I'm thinking about it as a deeper drill down, I think there is a thread of truth in the myth of what they were trying to do with this album at this level of lyrics, at this level of is it real? is it Zoo TV? You know, is it margarine or is it butter? I do think
Right.
they're doing
Right.
something here.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Even better than real thing to me. It's like it's a seed that that's revisited in discotheque right off the bat. You know you're chewing bubble gum. You know what it is, but you still want some. You know, it's that whole the the pleasure of the surface, but what what is it that we're desiring? How deep does it go?
We've got like 3 songs left. We're at an hour, so I think it's your turn.
Okay, what I'm just working off of memory. What am I missing here?
All we've got left. Let's just do all 3 of these and pack them into one. So trying to throw your arms around the world. So cruel and until the end of the world is all that's left.
Oh, okay, that's right.
Let's just mash these all into one thing, and we'll call it a morning.
Yeah. Until the End of the World is it's just a fantastic song. Again, the playing with the Judas Jesus relationship, and musically, I mean, I think it shows how important Adam and Larry are to the success of this album. The Edge gets the splash, and of course Bono's the front man, but this album would not be what it is without the percussion, the rhythm of that. So
yeah, I think they are so sonically interesting, and I just know they sound like themselves, and their albums, you can't say, oh, all their songs sound the same, no. Like, I mean,
exactly.
And their staying power. It's funny that you mentioned Simple Minds. I mean, because I think Jim Kerr was striving to be, Bono adjacent, and Simple Minds are still putting out albums, but I couldn't tell you if I've listened to, I mean, anyway, I'm partial to the Waterboy, of all those U2-esque bands of that period that are still around but aren't rock stars. They're minor figures. The Waterboys are probably my closest listening companion. They just dropped a new single yesterday about Trump called "The Liar."
Oh, wow.
That I really like. Say what? The Sun Studio. Yeah, I've been in the Bran is talking about going to the Rattle and Hum exhibit. It's kind of like almost like a Rattle and Hum exhibit within the exhibit that is the Sun Studios in Memphis. I agree with you, Bran. That is a great trip to Memphis right there. So I don't really have much more to say about these last 2 tracks. So I feel that they've been neglected, but we're at an hour, and I've got to go pee on a Joshua tree, and you've got another. We both have other meetings and stuff to do.
Yep.
So I'm Andrew Smith. This is my colleague, friend, fellow traveler Rick Quinn, and you've been listening to an impromptu live stream to celebrate the 30th birthday. Oh my gosh, I got to give my friend Bran a shout out for listening, and he mentions the Alarm. I am a humongous Alarm fan. So I would say, Mike Scott and the Waterboys, and then oh gosh, I can't say his name. They made a documentary about him. He's him and his wife are cancer survivors, and they hike to the top of mountains to raise cancer awareness. Why can I not say the lead singer of the Alarm? I feel so bad. I love the Alarm. So the Alarm, Simple Minds, Waterboys, Big Country.
The Call.
He brings up The Call.
Yeah.
And Big Country. It was like Bono in some song, some show brought out, I think, Stuart Adamson. And oh my gosh, why can I not say my man's name? My poor brain. I'm gonna feel so guilty about this the rest of the day. I know I said we were finished. But I need to look up the name of the Alarm singer, because I'm just having a senior moment. Mike Peters. So he brings out Mike Peters and Stuart Adamson, and he said, and they all sang a song together. And this was like in 82 or 83. Bono said, "This is the new breed," And I remember. I mean, I was so into all, and I saw all of them. I didn't see The Call, but I saw all the rest of them all around that early 83, 84, 85 period. Oh my goodness gracious. Okay. Everybody go listen to the album if you haven't in a long time. Enjoy the media saturated nostalgia fest that will be this birthday weekend. Go on U2 conference. Just Google the U2 conference. They're having a virtual birthday party tomorrow. I think they're starting today, but the presentations start tomorrow, and it's going to go through the weekend. And I'm sure just Twitter will be YouTube Twitter, as it were, will be alight with celebrations of the album. So thanks, Rick. Thanks to Bran for being our person to comment during the live stream, and thanks to anyone who's listening to this as in its archive version. Everybody have a great day, and go listen to Achtung Baby.
Thanks.